It's been several years since I've owned an Apple iPhone, and in that time I've owned, I think, one Windows phone, one BlackBerry phone, but every other phone has been built upon Android. But 6 months ago, my friend Gary gave me his brand new iPhone 11 Pro. I did an unboxing, I did some video tests, and I was incredibly impressed. It is a gorgeous phone. The build quality is amazing, the software is great, and the cameras are just top notch. So I made the decision to buy an iPhone 11 or 11 Pro. But it was the month before Christmas, and I had just spent about 4 or 5 grand on 2 laptops, on lighting equipment, on video capture card, and all this, some other equipment for recording on YouTube. So I really couldn't justify spending another grand on the iPhone 11 or 11 Pro, especially as this phone at the time was like 4 months old. Fast forward 6 months and we're now talking about the iPhone SE, or iPhone SE 2020, to distinguish it from the original iPhone SE, which came out in 2016. So the original iPhone SE was built upon the 5S chassis, I believe. This new iPhone SE is built upon the iPhone 8, except inside they have the A13 CPU inside, the same CPU which is used in the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro. Now, as far as the CPU goes, on the one hand, I believe that the fact that they are putting the best CPU, mobile CPU on the market into a smaller package is fantastic, and I love that. I love that they're doing that. I'd like to see other phone companies do the same. But I think we also have to acknowledge that this is 2020 and not 2015 or 2010. We're at the point now where mid-range phones feel snappy and responsive. And I think that the performance boost from having that fast, of a CPU in a phone, it's a law of diminishing returns. You're only going to feel a little bit more of a snap to the experience. So it is a good thing. I'm not saying it's not, but just bear in mind that everyone else below, the lower end CPUs have kind of caught up. I am giving the phone some serious consideration as to whether I'd buy it, but I've been looking at a lot of video reviews, and call me skeptical, but you can put a lot of these video reviews into 2 categories. On the one hand, you've got all the people that got the phone sent free of charge, who keep saying it's the best iPhone ever, that it's the best little iPhone, and that you should buy it. On the other hand, you have the people who bought the phone with their own money, and they are pointing out a lot of issues with the phone, such as the brightness not being great on the phone, the LCD screen not being great, the bezels being huge, the battery life being bad, the night mode not being available in photography mode. I'm kind of in between here, between these two groups, because I don't think the bezels are as bad as some people are making out. I don't think an LCD screen is a big issue. And I think the videos and photos that I've seen taken with the camera are really impressive, and I'd probably be quite happy with that from the phone. So I'm kind of in two minds as to, which one are right. I'm kind of sitting in the middle there. But what I would say is that I'm seeing a lot of the same things being repeated whenever an iPhone comes out. The first one being price. People keep saying that the iPhone SE is a bargain. They're saying it's a fantastic, great value phone. It's not. It's £419 for the 64GB version here in the UK, £469 if you upgrade to the 128GB, which you probably should because there's no micro SD card. That is not cheap. Let's get away, and a £500, near £500 phone is not cheap, especially when you can buy flagship Android phones at that price that have the Snapdragon 865 and have better cameras. It's not cheap. Cheap for an iPhone, maybe you could say that, but I think we need to get away from the fact that this is still an expensive phone. But the other thing I keep seeing this time and time again, whenever someone mentions an iPad or an iPhone, is that Apple charge a premium because they give you long-term software updates. Now, I will say Apple is leading the market in software updates. They are setting an example for the rest of the industry as far as supporting phones for 4 or 5 years or longer. And they keep providing support for these older phones. I am 100% behind them for this, and I do think they have the right to charge a premium for that. In the Android world, it really is a lottery. It's kind of up and down whether you get software updates or not. And even when I bought that HTC phone the other year, £600 phone, I got 2 updates within a year. The second update was only 4 months later, and it killed the battery, and there was no more updates. That's a joke. I would like to see regulations saying that phones have to be legally supported with new updates for at least 2 years. But Apple are leading the way in the industry with software updates. But one area where Apple are not leading the way is battery life. Now, they have been caught out in historically, a few years ago, they get caught out basically affecting the performance of older phones so that the phones could last longer. But I don't think that we can talk about long-term software updates without talking about battery life. They really do go hand in hand. And if you're looking at what's the most important thing, I think you have to put battery life at the top. Because if someone is looking at both of these factors, the main reason that someone is going to replace a phone, upgrade a phone, sell a phone, is because the battery has been depleted. It is a major issue. Anyone who's looking, anytime I get a friend asking me, the battery's dead, I need to replace the phone, it's always the battery. They never mention the software. So yes, software updates are great, but they're meaningless. This kind of feature is meaningless if the battery is an issue. Now, the original iPhone SE that was released in 2016 had a 1624 milliamp battery. This new one has a 1821 milliamp battery, and that's small. Certainly when Android phones have got 4000, 5000 milliamp batteries. The new iPhone SE has got a larger screen than the original one as well. Now, the original reviews of the original iPhone SE back in 2016, they pointed out battery life was going to be an issue. But I know a lot of friends who bought the iPhone SE, the 2016 version, and 1 year later, you were lucky if they could keep a charge on the phone till like 12 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon. They were charging it multiple times per day, and some of them were carrying power banks with them just to charge the phone all day long, which kind of negates the point of having a smaller phone. And it looks like it could be an issue with this new iPhone SE as well. There's a couple of video tests on YouTube where people have lined up all the latest phones and have done some battery tests. And one of the ones I saw showed that the iPhone SE, the 2020 version, went down to 0% battery life when the OnePlus 8 still had more than 50%. That means if you go out with your OnePlus 8 and you go to work and you go out all day long, your battery will go from 100% to 50%. But the iPhone SE would be dead. You would not have the phone, you'd have to charge it again. That is significant. And the smaller a battery is, the more significant battery depletion will be over time. My HTC phone had a 3000 milliamp battery, and after 1 year it was down to about 2200 milliamps. So the effective capacity had been reduced. So what's going to happen with this iPhone SE in 1 year? My guess is that battery life is going to be a major problem. Now, I'm not saying this to put anyone off from buying the SE. I do think overall it's a great little package, and I think it looks gorgeous. I think the photography, the camera aspects of it are really good. But you really do have to take into account battery life. And if any discussions about long-term software updates and the benefits of software updates, any discussion about that has to take into account the lifespan of a battery, because even if you're not a power user, most people will be very lucky to get good battery life out of a phone beyond 2 years, because the battery will be depleted so much because of how many times it's been charged, how many times it's been used. And if you are a power user, or even in the middle, and you're using it every single day, like a normal user, I guess you could say, I think that's the term I'm looking for. Even if you're a normal user, the iPhone SE could really present some problems in a year's time as far as battery goes, because 1821 milliamps for a battery isn't big. And I know it's got an LCD screen, and I know they've made some major improvements with software over years, but be very aware that that battery could be an issue in the future. And anytime you see anyone talking about, with an iPhone, you're going to get 5 years of updates, be realistic. Are you honestly going to keep a phone with a 1821 milliamp battery for 5 years and continually use it every day? You might want to, but realistically, it's not going to happen. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so please do leave a comment, and I'll speak to you all in the next one. Take care.